You are enough. You're enough. You've always been enough. You'll always be enough. Just show up with your whole heart, and that is more than enough.
It's only when you are shining your own genuine, authentic self through that people can relate to it.
How we're showing up is going to be informing exactly how we're showing up with whatever we're doing creatively.
Everything is so interconnected. So when you are learning how to breathe better, because yes, we are forgetting to breathe all the time, but when you're learning how to breathe better, when you're learning how to regulate your nervous system and control your emotions, like, yes, that affects your work, whatever your work is. Yes, that affects every single one of your relationships. It literally affects all parts of your life because they're not compartmentalized no matter how much you try to compartmentalize them. They're not separate. They're all intertwined because they're all you interacting throughout your world. Nothing's actually separate.
I am not alone. Everyone's struggling. We're all trying to figure this out. I think it's equally important to get out of ourselves and listen to someone else's story.
Yeah.
Go to their home and be like, what do you need?
Excavate, but don't perseverate.
Join me, 'cause I'm seeking sunshine, I'm seeking sunshine, I'm seeking sunshine, oh, I'm seeking sunshine, I'm seeking sunshine, I'm seeking sunshine, I'm seeking sunshine.
Welcome to Seeking Sunshine, Do What Lights You Up, a podcast for passionate, creative moms who are ready to live their best life and be their full, lit-up selves while being amazing moms, because it's possible to be both. It turns out that you don't have to lose yourself in motherhood, and I'm here to show you how. This is Seeking Sunshine 2.0 because we are no longer focusing on the problems, but on the solutions. It's your turn to shine. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Seeking Sunshine podcast. I'm so happy that you're here with me today. I will warn you, I'm a little bit in a messy situation. It's a little loud. So this morning we were dropping the kids off at school and I rolled down my window to tell my son goodbye. And then when I rolled the window back up, something snapped in my driver's side window and the whole window came crashing back down into the car door and shattered. So normally I record my intros while my kids are at gymnastics, which is exactly what I'm doing right now. But normally I have my car windows rolled up for this process. And today my car window is down, so that is why it might be a little loud. It's very windy and everyone's about to let everyone out of gymnastics, so that's my funny story for the day. Life is just lifey, right? It's just chaotic and we just move on. So that's my fun story of the day. Today's episode's amazing. I'm so excited for you guys to meet Siri. She's so much fun. I've gotten to work with her a little bit and I'm really excited for you guys to hear this episode because she's such a beautiful soul and she has so much goodness to share with the world. So in today's episode, we're going to talk about the benefits of becoming our best selves, which I feel like is a topic we've been exploring a lot on this podcast, and it's something I'm really, really passionate about. So I'm very interested in exploring it with her. It's very important to me. We also talk about the different modalities that can help us come home to our souls and the truth that everything testifies that we really are good enough. Oh my gosh, it's so important So Siri Baruc Thornton was born into a yoga ashram in Boston, Massachusetts in 1978, and as a teenager, she was immersed in the world of Reiki, and over the years, she became a master of masters. She's also a certified mountain breathwork facilitator and instructor and an advanced Akashic Record Reader and an instructor, and has been working in the clairvoyant field for years. She also helps women process their emotions and become more embodied. Siri is the host of the Authentic Creative podcast, and all of her services provide the ability for you to come home to the soul that you are. I adored this conversation. It was so much fun, and I'm so glad that you get to hear it now. Welcome to the podcast, Siri. Well, hi, Siri. I'm so excited to have you today on the Seeking Sunshine podcast. How are you doing?
I am very excited to be here with you.
Well,
This
I'm
is
so excited to
this
talk
is a
to you.
nice moment. Yeah.
I'm so excited to talk to you about all the amazing things that you're doing and how to really do what lights you up as a busy mom, and especially how to dive into, well, embodiment work and being creative and authentic and all of the juicy topics that I've gotten to listen to you talk about lately. So, where do you want to begin? Your journey's
Oh,
amazing. I know.
where do I want to be getting? Oh, well, I was born in a yoga ashram in just outside Boston,
Yeah, that's amazing.
Massachusetts,
That's a cool
and
place to start. You were born in the yoga ashram?
I was, and
That's so
my
cool.
parents were American Sikhs, so they wore all white turbans. They were in it. They were in it. They were in it, and it was very intense. And that was where my soul chose to come in. It was like, yeah, I'll come into this like commune meditation, yoga, spiritual space. So apparently that's where I wanted to come into. And then abruptly, we left that space after, like, when I was around 3. And then I grew up not in that spiritual community, but in like kind of self-improvement community, in terms of the fact that both my dad and my mom were always seeking, like your podcast, Seeking Sunshine, they were always seeking improvement, like evolution. That's always been their commitment. They've always been on that road.
Yeah,
And
like seeking
so,
movement. I love that.
yeah, so that evolution of like being committed to that has shown up in all of these various ways for them and then for me. Like, so I think my soul chose my parents and that life and those environments because my soul was like, I'm committed to my evolution and I'm committed to being on the path with other people who are committed to their evolution and to learning from them and guiding them and finding tools that help me along my path as a human and then sharing those tools with whoever's wanting those tools. So that's really been where things have gone for me. And then, side note, in terms of human behavior and understanding emotion, I was a professional actor my whole life. So first in school and theater camps and college and plays in college and community theater. And then in the world of film and television and commercials up until, I don't know, maybe right before the pandemic, I would say. I haven't really done any professional acting since then, but I'm very open and excited to the potential of who knows? Like, I still feel like my identity is very much of being a performer, an actor, but not in the sense of like faking anything, because my training was always like this is an illumination of human behavior and of being absolutely authentic in the moment in uh, imaginary situations.
Yeah.
So, so the whole acting world and training has really brought me to this place of being able to look at and work with human behavior and emotion, like I was saying. So, reacting, non-reacting, responding, how not to respond, like what is an emotion? How do we work with it? Like how can it help us? How can it be a tool? How can we heal the nervous system? All of it. So,
Ooh, I love this topic so much. I don't know if you know this, but I'm also obsessed with theater. I studied theater for ages. My degree is actually in, well, I have a double major in sewing and costume design and makeup design within the theater. I studied opera for a really long time. I'm in love with theater. And so I love the idea of how can we look at theater through the lens of human behavior and how humans operate, because that's really what theater is all about, is how can we look at how we are functioning in the world around us. How are we behaving? Because if you're really a good actor, then what you're doing is finding those emotions within your own self and then
mhm,
finding those experiences that you've had personally and recreating them from a different character, but it's really genuine emotion that's coming out of you. It's not fake,
exactly.
because then it looks fake.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love your passion for performance and entertainment and music. Yeah.
Well, and when you put your heart into it, that's when other people feel it. Like it's not, if you try to put on a facade and you try to put on, somebody else's skin, it doesn't work. It's only when you are shining your own genuine, authentic self through that people can relate to it. And that's one thing I've learned about creativity and about the arts, is that the more specific you get, it seems contradictory, but like the more deep you dive and the more nuanced you get, the more that other people can relate to your work.
Yes. Yeah, the more universal. I agree. For sure. Because we're all
Yeah.
very similar. We're all very connected. We all have very, very, very similar wants and needs.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed.
So how has the work that you've done with breath work and with other modalities related to this and helped you become a better actor?
That's an interesting question because usually I feel like it's the other way around that I'm being posed that. So, because I'm not currently in this moment being an actor, I haven't thought about that in a minute. But I will say that every self-help thing I've ever done, completely, because we're only as good of a performer, as good of an artist as we are as a good of a person, whatever that means, like good of, right? Like, but honing how we perceive or how we communicate or how we breathe or how we stand or how we move, how we relate to other people, how we respond or react to other people is so interconnected to, like how we're showing up, how healed are we, how we're showing up is going to be informing exactly how we're showing up with whatever we're doing creatively. So it's like, I think I'm thinking of it just on the spot here of like, well, what are you working with? And so I think it's actually pretty similar. Like if we're looking at these worlds of performing and being an artist to being someone who's on the path of self-evolution, there's a lot of crossover because it's like for me as someone who's curating, for example, a breathwork experience, I am going to be inspired by what's up for me as a human. Like, what am I working on? And if I'm creating something, say, in the acting world, like you were just saying, I'm going to use what's up for me, like what's real for me. What is igniting me or what is upsetting me? Whatever those wounds are, or the lessons that our soul is here to learn, that is decided to learn, like those soul lessons, whatever those soul lessons are, that's going to inform whatever I'm interacting with, whatever I'm playing with, whatever I'm creating, how I'm interacting, who I'm drawing into my sphere. So, like, you and I have been drawn into this sphere together in this moment because there's something that we both have agreed as souls, consciously, maybe some of it's unconscious, to show up and learn about, right? So for me, it's like showing up and learning about, how do I just be the universe expressing itself as love? And I feel like you have a very similar soul desire.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so here we are. And I feel like every acting role that an actor, for example, takes on is very much about like where they are in their soul's evolution and what's up for them, what challenges or what they're learning to grow into. And then they're going to shed light on that through that role or that project. Or, I keep thinking about my breathwork classes because that's what I'm so, so passionate about. It just completely lights me up. Like yesterday, I was facilitating this breathwork class, and I was telling you before we hopped on, I was so in flow. I just felt so on purpose. I felt so in service. I felt like, yes, I am using my gifts. It's all like everything I've ever learned and grown through, it's all here to serve these women. And I just feel so good doing it. And I feel so good helping them feel good, like expanding their capacity to feel good. So, does that answer? I don't know. It was a
Absolutely.
roundabout answer.
No, that's incredible. And what's amazing, what's coming to me and coming up for me is that like we're talking about, self-development and improve, like becoming better humans and how that is specifically related to acting. But actually, as you improve yourself, like it improves literally everything you're doing because nothing that you're doing is separate from anything else. Like it's all you. Like we have this innate desire and it's part of like how our brains are structured and how like we are wired to view the world around us. Like literally like from conception, like we are wired to put things into boxes and to compartmentalize things because it makes our lives easier to live. Like we separate all the colors out. That one's red, that one's blue, but actually everything is so interconnected. So when you are learning how to breathe better, because yes, we are forgetting to breathe all the time. But when you're learning how to breathe better, when you're learning how to regulate your nervous system and control your emotions, like, yes, that affects your work, whatever your work is. Yes, that affects every single one of your relationships. It literally affects all parts of your life because they're not compartmentalized no matter how much you try to compartmentalize them. They're not separate. They're all intertwined because they're all you interacting throughout your world. Nothing's actually separate.
How we show up vibrationally, how we show up energetically, what our station is tuned to, like Kathy Heller says.
Mm-hmm.
Like, who are we being? Who are we being as these expressive creatives?
Yeah. Well, and then what's more is that when you have stress in one area of your life, like people who go to work and they're super stressed at work and they're like, oh, I can just leave it at the door and come home and not carry that to my family. No, you are carrying that everywhere you go, actually. It comes with you. Like it doesn't just leave. You can't just leave it at the door. It's in your body.
Yeah, I think it's obviously we have to be able to adult. And you, Karaleigh, I know you adult so much every single day. You show up no matter what, regardless of a million challenges that you're being faced with in your personal world. And you're also a vulnerable, sweet, innocent human who has all sorts of feelings that need to be processed. And so, what happens when you don't take the time to process all of it? It just builds and builds and builds and builds. And how do I show up in service to the people that need me when I'm just filling with all of this?
Yeah.
As
Well,
women, as mothers, as creatives, as entrepreneurs,
mm,
we have to take care of ourselves.
yes. Well, and I know, like, having done my podcast for 2.5 years and talked to so many,
Oh,
I am not alone in
yes,
being in an overwhelming situation. That's
yes,
one thing that was like, oh yeah,
that's
this is
right,
how podcasting has changed my life, is that I was like, oh, everybody has hard situations. Like
right.
everybody is living a hard life. It's not just me. And we like this, that's why this work is so important.
Yep.
Because we all have to learn how to care for ourselves, because that ripple effect is so real. Because when you bottle it all up and you pretend like you don't actually need to care for yourself, then what happens is you're yelling at your kids, and then they're yelling at each other, and then they're yelling at their friends at school.
Yeah. You're dysregulated, and then everything around you is going to show up as dysregulation.
But then in turn, if you learn how to breathe and you learn how to regulate and you learn how to calm yourself down, then your kids watch you, because they don't listen to you, but they do what you do.
Yeah.
And they
When you
learn
can
how to
co-regulate with them.
And you have
Yeah.
kids, and I can only imagine that you've seen how much that works.
Girl, I mean, it's right. Like, we're on such, that is, any parent knows that that is the hardest job because, in my experience, and I think a lot of others, our kids are specifically designed to
Just are.
reflect back to us every little piece that we are unhealed with.
Push those buttons in the most. Oh, what we've been dealing with lately is, it's like, oh, and I was just talking to my husband about this. I was like, you cannot take any of it personally. Take none of it personally. Ignore every word, because that little human knows exactly what to say to get
Mhm.
right in there and to get on your nerves. And that particular human is trying to upset you. And if they are successful, they win.
Yeah, so
You-
my husband
yeah.
was reading this book recently about raising emotionally capable young men, and it had this section about anchoring. And anchoring, have you heard about this?
Ooh, I want to say yes, but please tell me.
Okay, so anchoring is what young boys do with their mothers, specifically. I'm sure it happens with fathers in other ways or what have you, but this is not what I've heard about from the book. The book specifically he was sharing with me is that young boys anchor with their mothers. And the anchoring is like, let me just get in there and kind of glom on and like kind of get in it with you. I'm gonna like anchor in here with this like fight or this conflict or this contrast, or like, let me just get up in mom's grill with whatever's going on for them from their day or they're scared about, right? Or they're challenged about, or even sometimes like excitement can be dysregulating, as we know, like super excited, but it's like, whoa, I feel a little unanchored. So let
Well,
me
and there's
like,
so much boundary pushing where it's like,
yeah,
okay, okay, mom, this is your job to hold the boundary. What's it gonna be?
yeah. And I remember doing that with my mom. Oh my God, because she was so, in my experience, loving unconditionally and sort of soft and like not a lot of boundaries there. So I was looking for those boundaries. I was looking for them. I was like, how am I going to make this woman stronger? Like literally that was my soul's task, was like, I'm going to make her stronger, and I'm going to make her stronger by being really difficult and like pushing. Whereas I'm looking for, and I think this is all kids. They're looking for the wall. They're looking like, what can I press up against? Like, are you
Right,
going to
the
be
love wall.
strong? Or yeah.
It's the where does the love end, Mom? I'm gonna push this until I can find it, and you just have to hold firm of the like. Literally, does not matter what you do. My love's not going anywhere.
Yeah, and also like that love, I think, is not just like you can do whatever you want to do, and I'm
Oh
gonna
no,
keep
no.
keep loving you. Like the love is that I was looking for as a child was like, I want
Boundaries.
you to set those freaking boundaries. And
Mm.
what happens with a child who doesn't feel those boundaries, in my experience, is they're gonna keep trying to get them, and then they're going to grow up as adults that don't understand how to create them for themselves.
Oh,
Right?
well, and
Right?
boundaries are just, I mean, boundaries are so important for ourselves as moms. And we live in this really interesting period of history. Whereas moms were like, okay, spanking is out. That's what we were taught. That's what we were taught. That's what we know, but that's out. So then what am I supposed to do when I
Right.
do all these things that I know are not okay? Like, if anybody else treated me like this, it would not be okay. I wouldn't be in this relationship anymore. Nobody else I would ever let treat me like this.
That's right.
Now this person's my child. So now what do I do? There's no
Yeah.
answer here. Like, what do I do?
Yes, yes. That's so interesting you brought that up. Like you can't spank. And the responsive parenting that I follow on Instagram is this responsive parenting. Do you follow this stuff?
I'm familiar with it because that was part of my college degree.
Oh, so it's
Yeah.
like you don't, there's extremes, but like
Yeah.
you kind of don't leave them alone. You don't
Yeah.
abandon. You don't, there's the extreme of like you never punish. You just say like when you do this, then you can have this, instead of like you can't have this if you don't do that or what have you, right?
Well, and
Like
then
it's yeah, go ahead.
take it as a punishment, and then they keep pushing that boundary to see when you will cave.
Yeah.
How can I react to get you to cave? And it's yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because I know this sounds like a crude analogy, but with like Caesar Milan, for example, with dog training, the dog actually wants you to be the alpha. They actually need to feel that you are, right? You know this, like
Yeah.
in control.
Yeah.
They want to know that you're the alpha, you're in control, and it makes them feel calm.
Which
But
is
it's
part of
it's
that
it's
anger.
it's calm assertive. It's not aggressive assertive. It's calm assertive, right? And so I'm not saying I've got this figured out. I'm not saying it's easy. We are all just figuring it out as we go, right? I
Mm-hmm.
don't think anyone knows what they're doing until they're the kids, or maybe ever.
We only know what we're doing when we're telling other people what to do.
Yeah.
We're actually in it for ourselves. We're like, I'm just like,
But I,
living
I
in
but I
this.
know the ideal version of
Yes.
the mom that I strive to be.
Yes, we know what to do as we are not doing it.
Yeah.
Right? Like I threw a roll at my kid's head the other day after he threw one at my head, and then I was like, "Oh, that was not the answer." And then I was like, "I'm sorry, I made a bad choice."
Well, I will say that when something's physically uh into your body, right? Like
Yeah.
physically impacting you, the physical impact will turn immediately
Yeah.
that
Fight, flight, freeze.
yes. Well, yeah, that, and I was gonna say that mama bear or that like little child. I mean, I will go from 0 to 60 if someone physically attacks me. I am
Mhm.
like, "Rah!" Like, what?
Yeah.
You can't kind of
You don't
almost
control that.
help that.
Yeah, it's
Your
fight or
body is, yes.
Mhm. Yep. But then this is why like, well, first awareness is like so important. But then this is why like the breath work and the nervous system regulation is like just so incredibly important, is because how do you have your secondary response after you have your initial? Like,
I will say hallelujah to the word repair.
yes.
Repair, 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 repair. And also, like, I think about people who have specific martial arts trainings. I think they probably, I imagine, have some sort of like more measured response to certain physical attacks where they're able to just be like, ooh, and they're they're like dropped into their like, I'm calm but I'm assertive, instead of like, let me just attack you back. I think
Yeah.
there's probably training where one can manage that. But yes, yes, yes. Nervous system
Mhm.
regulation, I think the less, as Tracy Litt says, that we're all walking trauma responses, or whoever she got that from,
Oh, love her.
right? Like the more of that, of those layers of trauma that are just in the body, the more we are going to just be reactive combustion balls. And the more we heal, or as Tracy says, resolve the nervous system, it's not even about healing, it's like resolving those nervous system triggers, the more we're not going to have them as often. It's just going to, like you said, you were talking about, like, it's just going to more roll or bounce off of you.
Mhm.
It's not going to be a trigger.
Yeah, and the reason this is so, I don't know, like I feel like it's relevant to everybody, whether you're a parent or not. It's just that parenthood, it sort of puts you under the looking glass and like gives you all your triggers
Magnifies.
in
Yeah.
and magnifies all of the things that are guaranteed to set you off, and you can't escape it, and you can't like there's not, it's not a choice to just get at it. Like once you're a parent, you're in it. Like that's just it. And the more that you can improve as a human and dive into that
Yes.
self-improvement work, the better
Yes.
parent you become because you become a better human, which is why this work is so especially important for parents. It's important for everyone, but because parenthood is so particularly demanding.
Challenging and demand. Yeah, you know what you're making me think of is this thing that I think applies to everyone, which is like, we can't fix or control anyone else. I wrote a whole script about it. We cannot fix or control anyone else. All we can do is lead by example and lead from within. And so if we are being the example of nervous system regulation, of resolved trauma, if we are being the example of responding as opposed to reacting, if we are being the example of how we navigate these challenges in life and like how to have the boundaries, that's the best thing we can do for our children and for everyone in the world. That's the only way, right? It's like my husband, bless him, on the road. Last night we were on a date, and he's doing his thing where he tries to teach the other person how to drive, and I'm like, honey, it will never teach anyone how to drive by you being like out the window, like pointing and being like, you're not driving correctly. Like, that's never going to teach someone how to drive better. You're never going to do it.
Oh, no, and you're so, so right. Like, we are not responsible for how other people behave. And it's been a thing like in my life recently because as parents specifically, we think that we are responsible for our kids' behavior. Like we've been
Mm,
taught that like it is literally our morality on the
yes.
line when our kids misbehave, and like we are
Yes, yes, yes,
responsible for
yes.
their actions. And it's like, no, you do your best to guide them and then you let it go.
Yeah, because it is that difference between, and I am so guilty of this, trying to manage and control and not be embarrassed by what other people are going to judge you as when you're out there as a parent, or you're in your home and there's other people in your home like your parents. looking at how you're parenting, like, and then you see these pictures or these videos of the example of what you would want to do, which is there's a girl laying on the floor having a tantrum, and the parents are just standing there totally grounded and just going, yep, yeah, she's having a tantrum, but I'm calm. I'm looking at it. There she is. She's doing her thing. And that reaction is like, oh, yeah, I don't have to have shame. This is a child who does not know how to regulate their emotions. It's not who I am. It's their expression of, yeah, it probably if we didn't all have filters and masks on, we'd all be laying on the floor doing that right now.
We are going to pause here for a moment to talk about Podcast Like a Mother. The Podcast Like a Mother podcast creation course is all about teaching you how to make podcasting work for your life. Podcasting should be easy, fun, and created right from your cell phone so that you aren't stuck behind a desk all day. It's time for you to leave your legacy and capture your stories because you are here for a reason, to use your voice and inspire others. Head to the show notes to learn more. Now, back to the show.
Oh yeah, the shame that we take on ourselves as parents from what our kids do is extreme. And if we could let that go, like what a relief that we would be giving to ourselves, because really the only person who can give that to you is you, and you have full permission to do it. Like, I mean, I have 3 kids with special needs, and they do all sorts of things that I've been like so embarrassed by over the years, like my severely autistic 12-year-old running through Walmart yelling penis and penis jokes. And like, it's not like it's not obvious that he's severely autistic to anybody, but like, it's very embarrassing.
Yeah, I get
Or,
that.
you know, my other one going, you're the worst parent ever, you're the worst.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, because
Oh,
that's
yeah.
part of his struggles. And it's like, you know, none of it needs to be taken personally. Isn't that one of the 4 agreements? Take nothing personally.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's the
take
danger also when kids are succeeding, Karaleigh, right? Like at sports or whatever they're involved in, the thing that I think is also insidious and dangerous is like this identifying as our child, like you're talking about.
I did that. Yeah.
Well, if my kid does this activity and they do it well, therefore that means something about me, or if they go to a specific college or whatever. I think that's the flip side of the same thing we're talking about is like my identity does not have to be their identity. They are their own person. And I'm not saying that that's easy, but I'm saying ideally we would unhook from that matching of like this means something about who I am.
We make meaning out of a whole lot of things that we don't need to make meaning out of.
Amen.
And the stories that we tell ourselves are usually unnecessary. And we have to like really analyze them and decide if they're actually helpful to our lives or not.
Right. Well, I feel like the brain is just going to be constantly like that's its job. It's just like make a story about that, make a story about that, make a story about that. Like, ooh, what story can I make about that? It's just like hungry for let me just keep making stories about everything.
We're so
We're so creative. It's never going to stop. But I think that's where the neutral observer comes in, and we can just unhook from all of the meaning-making machine that we are and just be like, huh. That's interesting. That's an interesting story right there.
Right? For anyone who thinks they're not creative.
That's fascinating.
Start looking at all the stories that you've been telling about what other people think about you, because I bet none of that is factually based.
Yeah, or even if it was, I can't control that. That's their journey. That's their ride. Like that's their movie. They're making their own movie.
Yeah, well, and those, it's probably not, even if they actually think that, it's based off of their own past experiences and life journey. And it's not probably even mostly based on actually you.
Yeah, it's their filter of how they see. Yeah, like Kathy Heller talks about, it's like, no, they can't see you anyway if you're not on their vibratory
Oh,
plane or
yeah.
what have you. They can't even see you, like the real you. But here's a philosophical thing I want to say is, do we even see ourselves?
Ooh, we don't. We so do not.
Do we even see ourselves accurately?
Okay, so how can we talk to us about this? Because I know you dive into this in so many different ways. How can we see ourselves more clearly?
Mm. Okay. Well, you're tempting me to talk about Akashic
I know
record
I am.
reading. You just like queued me up for that.
I did.
Yes. So we are about to start an Akashic record reading course. There's 4 women in it. We have 2 more that we're looking to have join. So if you're one of them, come. I don't know if this will be out in time because we start May 13th. But the thing that's so freaking incredible about Akashic record reading is when we have the intention to go beyond our mind and our small perceptions, our blinders get taken off when we have the intention to zoom out, drop in, use a sacred prayer, which is what I teach us how to use. There's many ways to access the Akashic. There's not just one way. There's many ways. I used to access it accidentally through Reiki and through the Reiki symbols. You can access it with various prayers. There's a specific prayer that I use and that I teach, and it's Linda Howe's Pathway Prayer. It's through the heart of the Akashic, and it's really about, this specific prayer is really about getting out of our own way and really putting ourselves to the task at hand of opening our heart and seeing someone with unconditional love and hearing someone without our filters, our personal human ego filters, and being able to tap into what are called your masters, your teachers, your loved ones, your guides. So it's either my masters, teachers, loved ones, guides, masters, teachers, and loved ones, or it's the other person's. Or if I'm doing like a reading where I feel like it's a communion of a meeting of all of, we see through what's called through the eyes of the Lords of the Records. They give us access to this plane, this field of infinite wisdom, and we can call upon masters, we can call upon teachers, we can call upon loved ones. It's basically energy sources from the other side, if you will, that we can work with that team and have a little meeting on the spiritual plane, on the spiritual realm, and zoom out, like when you're in an airplane and you look down and you just have so much perspective and emotional availability for what is. And we all have this access to these infinite realms of wisdom and possibility that we can tap into when we step out of our ego self. We step out of what Kathy calls the somebody suit into the nobody suit, and we can, with our heart fully open, we can see everything. We can understand. We can understand past lives. We can understand present circumstances and concrete steps to move forward. We can understand what I teach is like how to use spiritual tools to actually dissolve energies that are clouding the way from us being able to see. Like if there's so much emotion, we can dissolve that emotion with certain spiritual tools that I teach. We can see through the cloud of emotion to see the soul level truth, or we can see future possibilities. So nothing's set in stone or written in stone. It's just here's, like in the Doctor Strange Marvel, his ability to be able to like see every potential possibility. I look at it like that. It's like you have free will, so this is not like a fortune telling. And this is not like this is going to happen no matter what. But you can see these future possibilities. And then the
Yeah.
other thing you can do when you zoom out is you can look at energetically for people or for yourself. Here's three different things I'm thinking about, and I'm trying to choose. And I can look at the energy within the Akashic realm of these three different things, these choices, and I can be like, this is the one that's for my highest and best good.
Hmm. I love this. So as I've been, because I'm going to be taking this class with you, and I'm really excited for it. And I'll try to air this before I think I can get that in there, or
No
I can air it at
pressure.
least a couple days after we start. But I want to give a perspective on it. I actually finished reading the book, so that
Woo!
is fun. I want to give a perspective on this because I think that a good amount of my audience is Christian based, like I am, and as I have been studying this, it is a little bit of a stretch for a lot of Christian based people to understand, like, what the heck does this mean? What is this? And so my perspective of it is it's really a deep inspirational exploration. It's seeing yourself through God's eyes. It's being able to pray and really sit in this meditative state of how could how does God really see me? How feeling his pure love for my soul. And like it is so deeply powerful. Like it really truly is. And to just that's been my experience so far with it, is like it really is about diving into to God's love for you and for your soul, and using that power of prayer and inspiration to guide your life
Hmm.
through that divine love. So from that Christian lens, to help people bridge that a little bit, um, I personally believe that like everything that I know and believe from my very uh, Latter-day Saint Mormon Christian faith, that it all aligns, that like all of it works together in a really beautiful way, and it just all helps us expand, our knowledge of God's love for us. So that's my
Hmm.
personal belief and opinion for all those who are listening.
That's a beautiful way of relating to it and making it accessible for you. Yes, I know that a lot of people find that there's a barrier for them. Wait, I don't have to have a go-between. There's nothing between me and that infinite wisdom. That's challenging for some people
Yeah.
from the way that they've seen things. And even within the Akashic world, it wasn't always like this that everyone was allowed to have access to the Akashic realm. That it used to be just specific, wise, sage,
Yeah.
special people. And now the perspective is that we've evolved enough as souls that if you have, the way I look at it is, if you have the longing, the desire, the intention, the curiosity for the Akashic, it's for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Well, and the more that you can, like, I'm so passionate about understanding your worth and your value. And when you know that more and more and more and more and more, like you just become a better person. Like knowing your divine nature and your value to this planet, like
Mm.
that helps everything. That helps you when your kids are screaming at you. That helps you
Yes.
when life is stressful and hard and everything feels like it's blowing up all around you. Like
Yes.
knowing that you deserve to go take a deep breath and take a
Mm.
step back, like
Mm.
knowing that your kids have infinite worth, no matter what's going on with their lives, no matter how they're treating you, like that changes everything. When you can
Yes.
feel that love,
Yeah.
it it changes everything.
Yeah. There's not a question mark. It's not a question. It's not based on anything external or behavior or accomplishment or labels. it's inherent. And I think that's what we're unlearning, is that we think that it's based on these externals, because that's a lot of what our conditioning has been, that it's based on these particular labels or externals or achievements or how or being good. And
Yeah.
when we unlearn the conditioning that we're learning now this inherent worth.
Yeah. Well, and when you can
It
like
just makes
really,
everything so much more simple. Yeah.
yeah, and when you can really embody your own worth, and then you can, because you first have to do that. Like that is entirely the first step. It's not first seeing loving your own kids. It's first loving yourself, because you can only love somebody as much as you love yourself. And like as much as you feel like that might not be true, it is entirely true. You can only love your kids as much as you love yourself.
Yes. And you
And
can only meet someone as deeply as you've met yourself.
ooh,
Yes.
yes. And so you have to explore your own history, your own traumas, your own worth first, and deep dive into who you are and figure out why you are worth improving, you are worth loving, so that you can then look at your kids and go, oh my gosh, they're amazing. And as soon as you start to like see all that click into place, you're like, oh, I was made for this. I was
Mm.
made to be their mom. I was made to guide them, because
Mm.
I've been through the battle and the journey of figuring out my own worth. So now I get to help guide them on that journey too, because I've been
Ah,
done it.
that's beautiful. Yeah. Yeah.
And
I
that's why
agree.
it's so important for us to go through it ourselves so that we can then lead them.
This unworthiness wound is so inherently universal. Yeah. And it's so fascinating. What a waste of time. What a waste of time to question any of it. Like, could we just get on with what we're here to do? Because you're so talented and you're so gifted and you have so much to give and so much to be of service to with your kids and your singing and your creations. And it's such a waste of time for us to think about and question, am I worthy of this or this or this or this? And like, what if we didn't, what if it was just like a foregone conclusion?
Well, and what's funny is it comes in layers, right? And as soon as you like start healing one layer of that and you start going deeper and deeper, then you realize that there's more to it. And then you're like, oh man, I thought I healed that. And then there's like another one that comes up. And it doesn't have to be worthiness. Like there's so many different like ways in which like we're constantly improving and like working on ourselves. And it's like the more that you excavate all of those limiting beliefs and all those things that like, oh, they weren't part of you when you were 3. They weren't part
Mm.
of you when you were 5. We've learned how to be limited. We weren't
Yeah.
limited when we were, little. Like we've put on those limits
I
and we don't
like
have to.
I like when you were talking about through your podcast that you've been able to understand how universal it is to be challenged by life. And I think anytime we get my experiences, anytime we get into community, whether it's a religious community, a spiritual community, a self-help community, an AA community, like whatever that is, a tribe, we're immediately going to see ourselves more clearly because we can see, yes, I am not alone. Everyone's struggling. We're all trying to figure this out. Everyone's got their insecurities. Everyone's got their challenges. And like, now what? How are we going to help each other? How are we going to lift up the planet vibrationally? How are we going to serve? Because I think it's really easy when we're isolating ourselves, which I know I can do, to just get into the stories and get into the, you could spend so much time just being like, and I'm not saying don't excavate,
Yeah.
I think it's really important. And also, I think it's equally important to get out of ourselves and listen to someone else's story. Go
Yeah.
to go to their home and be like, "What do
Well,
you need?"
excavate, but don't perseverate. Don't don't like keep unwinding the story that's been unwound already.
Yeah, like belabor it.
Yeah. Well, and that's
Yeah.
one of the biggest, limiting beliefs that so many people have is that I'm alone in this.
Yep.
It's like, that is pretty much never true.
Yeah. Yeah, that's ego and separation. Like
No, no one's
I have
separate.
this I have a special problem that you don't understand. And it's like, no, everyone, if they open their heart, everyone can understand.
One of my favorite like quotes ever, which I don't have the quote memorized, but it was Mr. Rogers. Actually, I think he was quoting somebody else, but everyone attributes the quote to him. Is that if somebody tells you their story, you can't help but love them
Right?
because like the emotions behind the story, those are universal.
Yeah. Yeah. We're intrinsically connected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This has been amazing. So
This was fun. Yeah.
I love it. As we are wrapping up, how can we find you and follow you and join you in breath work and all of the things?
Karaleigh, thank you so much. I want to say I'm sorry if I got too excited at any point and overlapped you because I did that
We're
for
meant to have
sure.
fun and like this is a conversation. Like,
You can find me at Siri Baruc Thornton on Instagram. So SiriBarucThornton. You can find me at sageandblushwellness.com. You can email me, Siri at sageandblushwellness.com.
awesome. And that's where we're going to find all the breath work and the Akashic records and all of the, and human design, because you also do human design readings.
Yes, and the events that are coming up. There's an event in
Yes.
Portland coming up. There's an event in LA coming up. So all of it, yeah.
Amazing. Do you have any last words you want to leave us with?
Just you are enough. You're enough. You've always been enough. You'll always be enough to show up with your whole heart. And that is more than enough.
I love it. Those are amazing last words. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, beautiful one. Ah, love you.
Love you too.
Thank you so much for all of your amazing words of wisdom and just being here with me, Siri. I feel like sitting in your energy is just such a gift. Here are my very favorite takeaways. Number one, it's only when you are shining your own genuine, authentic self through that people can relate to it, to your whatever it is you're working on. It's that thing with creativity. The more specific you get, the more deep you dive, the more nuanced you get, the more that other people can relate to your work. Number two, everything is so interconnected. So when you are learning how to breathe better, when you're learning how to regulate your nervous system and control your emotions, that affects your work, whatever your work is. That affects every one of your relationships. It literally affects all parts of your life because they're not compartmentalized no matter how much you try to compartmentalize them. They're not separate. They're all intertwined. Nothing is actually separate. Number three, your worth is not based on anything external, like behavior, accomplishments, or labels. It's inherent. Number four, you can only love somebody as much as you love yourself. You can only meet someone as deeply as you've met yourself. Number five, it's important to get out of ourselves and listen to someone else's story. Number six, excavate, but don't perseverate. Don't keep rewinding the story that's been unwound already. And number seven, you're enough. You've always been enough. Just show up with your whole heart, and that is more than enough. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, so good. You can find more from Siri at sageandblushwellness.com. You can email her at Siri at sageandblushwellness.com. Make sure you go check out her podcast, which is The Authentic Creative. You can find that everywhere that you listen to podcasts. So I loved hearing from Siri. We have amazing guests coming up. Make sure you check out the show notes for all of the links, which includes the link for my website, the link for my podcast Like a Mother course, and the podcast Like a Mother podcast, and you know, all the amazing things, like the link for getting the daily emails that have those graphics for all the quotes you just heard. And I am going to end there because this has been a long recording. I hope that you are having such an amazing day. I hope that you are breathing and remembering to enjoy every moment. And if you're not, that's also okay. Just take some time to look around and see how gorgeous your life is, because I know that there's more. There's always more that we can be appreciating, right? And I love you guys, and I'm so grateful that you're here. And I'm going to leave you with a song.